Thank you very much for your introduction. I am pleased to be able to present our results. Over the next 20 minutes, you can expect a whole range, a colorful mix of different analyses, and of course we can go deeper into detail. You can always do that. So if you feel like you're caught the scent of something interesting, then please just contact us, ask us about the sources, and we will be happy to share our information. I now divided my presentation into 3 parts. First of all, I would like to introduce ourselves and who is behind AGOF as an association, so as to give you the opportunity to actually make up your mind about who we are. In case you haven't heard of us yet. Then the target group analysis. What can we tell you about the target groups of the tourism industry? What can we do on the basis of our studies? And then in the third part, we will look at the internet, the websites, and the possible insights that we can glean from the use of these different media by the target groups. What are they especially interested in? What kind of websites do they use on top of and apart from the traditional tourism websites? Now, who we are, that is the AGOF, that is a cooperation of marketing agencies in Germany, and we had the objective of developing something like common currency for the digital media area, so online and mobile devices. We've got 2 market media studies that we're publishing. There's on the one hand the Internet Facts, where we are looking at the outreach of certain internet channels, and for 2 years now we have also conducted studies on mobile facts, where we are looking mostly at the mobile market. So these are 2 separate studies, and we also use different tools for collecting and analyzing the data here currently. The marketing agencies that are behind us, these are 19 different companies. It's not the website operators who are the contact persons, but the marketers themselves who are responsible for placing ads on the websites and for selling the ad space. Of course, they have a very own interest in finding out how they could measure the outreach of individual websites and looking into the structures of websites, the effect, in order to be able to place their ads in a targeted fashion, and also in order to be able to analyze their potentials. As you see, these are titles or names that you will, some of which you will recognize. Others not quite are not quite that obvious. We've got the traditional print media representatives, Axel Springer-Bauer Media, but also email providers like FreeX Media, and then we've got interactive media for the T-Online group, or the TV station like IP Deutschland from the RTL group, or the 7-One Media, which is part of the RTL Sat.1 Pro7, or rather Sat.1 Pro7 group. I apologize. Apart from these, there are 60 more marketers and marketing agencies who also participate in our study. In all of these, 70 to 80 participants now record their websites in our project, and with that we start the project of gathering the data. We've got a 3-tiered approach here. If you want to get more insight into that, please contact me afterwards. I'm not going to go into further detail. We've got 3 pillars that we are using in order to analyze the outreach, for example, and in order to come up with the necessary data. So we can, for example, draw conclusions from the browsers by gathering browser information and gather information with a view to the users behind the screen. So market relevance, how do we measure that? Well, we take a look at how many people at a certain point in time were online. Of course, on the other hand, you could also look at the number of web pages, but that is difficult because there are so many around on the internet, and you do not really have a reference point of 100%. So we just try to look at the number of people who spend time on the internet at a given point in time, and how many of these people have you reached with your study. This is the point of comparison. So I'm looking here at the time frame of September to November of last year, and during that time there were 756 offers that were listed, like on stern.de or Wetter.de, and these offers can be then further differentiated in our studies according to different subject topics. And this doesn't look like it is much, but we've got the large market players and the large number of marketing agencies. You can see that some 90% of the people who were online during that time frame can be reached through these channels, and this then helps us to draw some conclusions as to their specific use of the internet. Some 11 or 12% even of the users are users that we cannot say much about. It could be that these users are exclusively on Facebook. Facebook is not a member of our research group, or they delete their cookies. So, and we need to use cookies for the, we need to detect the client at least twice in order to conduct our analysis. So if there is a person who would delete their cookies after each visit to the internet, then we would not be able to detect them or to redetect them, and they would not become part of our database. This in Germany is a relatively small group, but of course this is all has something to do with the subject of data protection, which is not relevant, by the way, for our study. So this share of people, this group, is not as big as to be able to skew the statistics significantly. So this was the background as to what we're doing and why we think we would be able to actually convey you basic data of importance. So, do you know your target group well enough? Do you know who your target group is, what your target group is on the internet, and what they're doing on the internet? Starting with the basic facts, we could ask the question of how many people are actually interested in products from traveling and tourism. Here, some 70% of everyone online over the last 3 months. We had some 50.8 million people, and some 70% of these people are interested in subjects concerning tourism and traveling. With a view to the potential, we can tell you that these are 35 million people. So it's quite a large volume of people that you can address, because they have basically positive stance because they're interested in the subjects that you have to offer. So what are the areas behind this phenomenon? What do we count as part of the tourism and traveling segment on the internet? Well, holidays and last-minute trips, hotels for holidays and business trips, then flight tickets or airlines, so that is no-frills airlines and the regular ones, then train tickets or rental cars. All of these play a role. The potentials here, 24 million is the biggest area for holidays and last-minute trips. 19 million looked at hotels for holidays or business trips. And then as a whole, almost 26 million combined in the area of flight tickets, be it of no-frills airlines or other airlines. And the rental car area is relatively small in comparison, 2.8 million. This is the background that we first of all try to gather in terms of data with a view to tourism and traveling. So if I'm talking about tourism and traveling, then I'm always referring to this overall package. And depending on the area that you are from and that you're interested in, you can, of course, always go into further detail in these analyses. Then let's take another step. User interest on the one hand is a good starting point, but of course we can further differentiate. Again, the 70%, that is the 35 million users that I already mentioned, but according to product interests, we can differentiate further. So people are interested, but what is it that's so specific about these customers on the internet? And so we asked them whether they use the internet for information search, and you can see that the potential even is going up. 81% of people online say that they do research on the internet pertaining to traveling and tourism. Now, of course, you can speculate why some people are not interested in that. Well, for example, the secretary of a manager who doesn't feel like doing the research for her job would probably say that, yes, she's doing the internet research for her trips and travels, but she wouldn't really do it out of pure interest. She wouldn't enjoy that, so she would not indicate that she's interested in this. So this is a skewing factor. But information is very interesting for you when it comes to branding campaigns. If you want to do online advertising, if you don't have an online e-commerce shop so that you are not able to do online sales, for example, then you wouldn't be exactly interested in the sales figures online, as you don't have any. But the information area would show you how many people use the internet in the phase of orientation. So how many people can you reach out to with your brand, even if it's only that you manage to get people to remember your brand as a mere fact. So how big is the percentage of people who do the online purchasing? Large volume. More than every second person online is already purchasing trips or parts of trips online. They book their rental cars, their hotels, their flights on the internet. So major volumes that you can address, and this, of course, with different levels of intensity, depending on your objectives. Let's take a closer look at sales, respectively purchases over the last 3 months. Here again, we've got the individual segments. Train tickets, 24%, equaling 12 million users. And then we've got flight tickets, other tickets, other flight tickets ranking second and third, respectively. So this is what happened over the last 3 months. And when trying to forecast the future with a view to their plans that we asked in our studies, with a view to their plans over the next 12 months. Then holiday and last-minute trips again rank first. After that, we've got hotels and the rental cars. So as a next step, and you already know the analyses that I already mentioned, we can look at the potential of what you can expect in terms of people that you can reach out to using the medium of the internet. You know, if you try to link what the user groups are actually doing online apart from their interests, then you also have to look into the plans of your target groups as it concerns future purchases. And for many people of our target group, it's books, then admission tickets, women's clothing, shoes, and music, or CDs. These are the highest ranking percentages, and we've got, of course, a list with many more different areas that is much more detailed that you can use for your specific purposes. And what could be useful about such a list, if you want to address people who have a specific interest in traveling and tourism products, well, you can offer these, and then you can also add on specific offers, like, for example, admission tickets. You can try and dovetail your communication in a way that would allow you to cross-promote these items. What would people like to buy in the next 12 months? Well, music, CDs, furniture, films on DVDs, videos, home improvement, devices, for example, or toys. And, you know, if you then, for example, try to communicate to your target group with a view to furniture purchases, then you may know that your target group is planning, or the member of your target group is planning, for example, a trip to Africa, let's say, and then you can, for example, try and advertise purchasing furniture either at the very destination of the holiday or buy something in the style of the holiday destination, so that they can just take home their holiday feeling. You know, you may now think this is a nice idea, but nothing really that I couldn't have come up with myself. Well, but you can really place many different possibilities and internet stores around your core offer. So the closer you get to your target group, the more personal your approach is, that the more intensely will you be able to actually make these people remember your campaign in a positive way. So these analyses can help you to look into the details of what you can offer on top of your core message that would allow your customers to book a hotel or a flight. So after having looked into the details of your target group, we would like to follow the footsteps of them online and look into how you could reach out to them online. Let us take a look at a different area for that. first of all, we'll take a step back and take a look at the global situation. And how big is the marketing volume of tourism and traveling when you look at the distribution of the different media? We've got something like 700 million euros spendings. This is based on the Neil study. And here it becomes apparent that most of these funds are spent on television, and then the print media are the second largest area where these spendings actually occur. That is dailies, weeklies, monthlies, specialized papers. And some 16% of the industry are doing advertising on the internet, and the radio with 10% is ranking last. But 0% we've got in the mobile area. So your industry is rather reluctant still. So not that much money has been spent in this area. And I think that perhaps people are still somewhat reluctant due to individual factors. Now, how can I further break down the market so as to enable me to actually draw some conclusions concerning benchmarks? You know, we've got the amount that's being spent, so and so much is being spent online, but how can I now assess whether I'm faring well with my online campaign, whether I'm doing well or not? So in order to find that out, I took a closer look at the online area and tried to split up the 135 million of investments. We've got 321 companies that did their advertising in this time frame, and every company had, on average, an annual budget of 420,000 euros for online campaigning, and a monthly budget would be 45,000 euros. Of course, these are average values, and if you take a look at the different margins, these would be differentiated. But this gives you a rough impression as to what your position is, what your spending is, where you would be located on this list of online activities, and how you compare to your competitors. The number of websites that are being booked, or where slots are being booked per year per company, an average value of 20% should serve as a point of orientation so that you can see how broad campaigns are being spread over different websites on the internet. Let's take another step and look at how you can actually encounter and find your target group whenever they're looking at other things than tourism and travel offers. Of course, you could say that you are always and only exclusively active on tourism and traveling portals because it really fits in nicely, but everyone is using a broader spectrum of websites, which, of course, you know from your own internet use, that, of course, if you're focused on a specific subject, that you are also looking at specific internet websites. If you, for example, are planning a holiday in a specific country, then you'll be looking at the relevant websites. But still, you are a person who's not always thinking of traveling and holidays. And if you try to just, you know, relax from your professional everyday life, you will also visit other internet websites, and you've got a different disposition when looking at those websites. It doesn't need to be negative, but you can contact your target group there, try to get their attention. I, for example, formed a group here of persons who visited Holiday Check, TripAdvisor, and Opodo. And now, if I combine these three portals, I can reach out to 6.68 million unique users. So people who are online in that month and visited these portals at least once. What is it that these people make use of on top of these three web pages that I combined here in my analysis? Take a look at this list. The first 5 websites that people most frequently visit, 70% use eBay, 67% use T-Online. We've got the Scout group behind T-Online. This may be somewhat confusing, but we've got the Family Scout, Immobilien Scout, Auto Scout behind that. Then 55% is gutefrage.net. And this is somewhat irritating to me. You know, in all the rankings of ours, we find this web page really far up in the list, you know, but I myself do not really directly access this website, for example, but are quite frequently being, you know, referred to that website. And I, for example, entered the question into Google. I'm looking for a hotel in Barcelona, and I think that apart from the paid-for ads on Google, then we had the first page with 4 different results, one of which was from Gutefrage.net. And I think Chefkoch even appeared. That's a cooking website and an online telephone directory. So if you do not just enter individual words into the search mask of Google, but enter phrases, for example, then quite frequently you end up on Gutefrage.net, like people are asking the internet in general. And these are portals that you may not be focusing on, but they are really massively in use. Then Computer Bild and Web.de as a web provider with 41%. So again, quite a different kind of choice. We've got portals with a major outreach where you can actually also get a contact to your target group, probably with a different kind of a focus, but that is not a bad thing at all, because it is about establishing your brand in your consumers' and customers' awareness. Let's take a look at the mobile area. It is relatively recent. We don't have the in-depth data as we have them in our Interfact study, for example. So we do not really look into that many different areas, but you can start to get a feeling for what people actually are using in terms of mobile web pages when they're interested in traveling or tourism. The target group are people that are interested in travel products or, for example, train and flight tickets. The potential here is around about 10.8 million. So you can see that the potential is somewhat limited in number compared to the previous figures, but these are mobile customers. What do we mean by mobile? These are mobile-enabled websites. That means that these websites were adapted to the individual and devices, concerning the size of of course, the web pages, and then there are also the apps that you can use on your smart devices, your handheld devices. Now, which mobile-enabled websites are being used mostly by the mobile travel-interested target group? We've got, again, Gutefrage.net ranking first in the list, 2.5 million users, then Bild.de, Spiegel, Focus, Die Welt. Quite a broad spectrum again, with outreach that, of course, are somewhat smaller compared to the overall internet figures, but still not to be neglected. We've got the percentages in the list right side, on the right-hand side. Then we tried to look at it from a different angle. Originally, I wanted to ask you a question, but now I anticipated it by putting it in the headline. So the apps. With a view to apps, it's pretty irritating because the most frequently distributed app in our studies is that of TV Spielfilm, which is television guide. Not many people do not really remember that they have actually downloaded the app, and or they just stopped using it. But it was downloaded very, very frequently, and it's something that really appears in all the different studies that we are publishing, and they are always ranking first, followed by email providers, Web.de, GMX, but then we've got Wetter.com, a weather forecasting site, or Spiegel Online, news magazine. So this is just a short glimpse into the mobile market. The target group analyses here can also be carried out. I didn't want to do that in order to, I didn't want to bore you by repeating the whole process again. But if you want to have further information, just contact me. So in summary, what does this mean? Well, the internet is already very much in demand, very much accepted, because you can use it for different means. You can position your brand, but you can also use it as an additional channel for e-commerce, of course. That means for you that during the phase of planning a trip, that you can, as a consumer, use the digital media in all the different phases, and you can, on the other hand, contact your customer all through these different stages of the process. Whether it is that your customers are currently thinking about where to go in the first place, whether they are surfing the internet or on mobile pages, you can already encounter your customers on those pages and become part of the relevant set of information. You can also think about which kind of opportunities arise out of that for your company. And if you then add, for example, online sales opportunities, you can really stick to your target group until the very end of that process. Try to influence them positively and always be around, be present, try to be part of their background And so if you don't have an online shop, you still should not neglect the internet. You should always play an important role in the orientation phase. Of course, your communication would have to be designed differently, and you should not try and press people into actually doing purchases online. You just have to focus on how to present your brand. So this is a short insight that I presented. And now, are there any questions? If yes, please wait for the microphones. Thank you very much. Jörg Tötzer from Torias Mobile. I'd like to know how you differentiate between the different mobile end devices like smartphones and tablet computers. What do you think? How important is the tablet? Do you make a distinction at all? Well, very nice question. We currently do not really take into account tablet PCs, just mobile devices. With a view to tablets, we've got a discussion going on among the members of our association. You know, people actually ask, you know, what difference there is. I mean, we've got mobile-enabled websites and applications that we're looking at, but not tablet PCs, because we do not yet really know from which size of the device a certain device actually represents a mobile device, you know. So this is the discussion among the marketing agencies, for example. So we're not currently looking at tablets. Now, on your customer journey, as far as I understood, you only look at two phases of the customer journey. You know, that is the inspirational phase and the booking phase. But what about the final phase? You know, that is when people come back from their journey. Then they, of course, log on to the social media, and they want to just express themselves. They want to share their experiences, post images, for example. Have you looked into that? Well, the study is not that comprehensive, so theoretically we would have to ask, you know, a question like, okay, you just spent a holiday somewhere. What are you doing with the information now? So we are just asking about the three different areas that I presented to you, and so we do not really have the data in order to get the right kind of feedback as to what is happening in the social media. This is not part of our study. Okay, someone's showing me the watch. I'll be around. If you still have questions, please feel free to talk to me. And this is our closing chart. These are the contact data. Please feel free to contact us. Just look at our webpage, www.agof.de. You can also find the industry report that we drew up, and you will also be able to find other areas. Please contact us if you are interested in other areas, for example. Then we will try and find out what we can offer you. Of course, there is a number of things that we can also do that could be of interest to you. Thank you very much. A big round of applause from Marion Beckers, please. Thank you very much. Head of the AGOF Academy, agof.de.